The merchant's masquerade ambassador Maria Santos walked through the gleaming corridors of the Galactic Trade Station, her simple gray uniform drawing amused glances from the colorful aliens around her. The station was massive, built like a wheel, spinning slowly in the void between star systems. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see ships from dozens of different worlds docking and departing. Most were elegant vessels with smooth curves and glowing energy fields. A few with a blocky, smoking cargo haulers that everyone knew belonged to Earth. The meeting chamber was already full when Maria arrived. She took her assigned seat in the lower section, while the more important species sat in elevated platforms that showed their status in the galactic community. The Zentarians occupied the highest platform, their blue skin shimmering with built-in display patterns that showed their wealth and power. Below them sat the Krillians, a warrior race whose red scales and multiple arms made them look like living weapons. Other species filled the remaining seats, all of them looking down at the small human section with barely concealed amusement. Council leader Krex stood up, his tall Zentarian frame casting shadows across the chamber. His voice carried easily through the room without any need for amplification technology. Fellow beings of the galaxy, we gather today to discuss trade routes and defense partnerships. As always, we welcome input from all member species, including our newest and smallest contributors. Maria felt the familiar sting of condescension, but kept her expression neutral. Earth had been part of the Galactic Trade Council for 5 years now, but they were still treated like children among adults. The other species saw humans as harmless cargo haulers who were useful for moving goods between worlds, but had nothing valuable to contribute to galactic civilization. Captain Vorth of the Krillian Raider fleet leaned forward in his seat, his forearms gesturing dismissively toward Maria. Perhaps the human can tell us about their latest trade shipments. I heard they managed to deliver grain to the Outer Rim colonies without losing more than 2 ships to pirates this time. Quite an achievement for such primitive vessels. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Maria had heard variations of this joke hundreds of times. Earth's merchant fleet was indeed small and appeared primitive by galactic standards. The ships used chemical rockets instead of the elegant gravity drives that other species favored. Their hulls were thick and clunky, designed more for durability than speed or beauty. Most embarrassing of all, they actually leaked atmosphere and required constant maintenance, leaving visible exhaust trails that more advanced ships found distasteful. Captain Vorth is correct, Maria replied calmly. Earth's merchant fleet focuses on reliability rather than elegance. We may not have the fastest or prettiest ships, but we deliver our cargo on time. This brought more laughter. A Zentarian trader named Zix called out from the upper levels. On time, perhaps, but at what cost? Your ships are so slow that fresh fruit rots before it reaches its destination, and the maintenance requirements are legendary throughout the galaxy. I heard that one of your cargo haulers needed repairs 3 times during a single journey to Kepler Station. Maria nodded as if accepting the criticism. Human technology does require more hands-on maintenance than your advanced systems. We make up for it with determination and hard work. Council leader Krex activated a holographic display that showed recent trade statistics. As you can see, human shipping accounts for less than 2% of galactic commerce. While we appreciate Earth's enthusiasm, it's clear that your species is still in the early stages of technological development. Perhaps in a few centuries, you'll develop proper starships. The display showed embarrassing numbers. Earth had exactly 37 operational cargo ships, compared to thousands belonging to other species. Human vessels carried mostly basic agricultural products and raw materials, while other civilizations transported advanced technology, exotic energy sources, and sophisticated manufactured goods. The comparison made humanity look like farmers trying to compete with industrial giants. Dr. Salin, a brilliant vegan scientist, added her own observations. I've studied human technology out of curiosity. Their ships still use primitive fusion, reactors, and kinetic projectile weapons. They haven't even discovered how to manipulate gravitational fields for propulsion. It's quite remarkable that they've managed to reach space at all with such limited capabilities. More species joined the conversation, each adding their own comments about human limitations. The Korathi mentioned that human colonies had no orbital defense platforms. The Nexari pointed out that Earth's communication systems were so basic that messages took weeks to travel between their settlements. The Dulari noted with amusement that humans still used physical ammunition instead of energy weapons. Captain Vorth stood up, his red scales gleaming under the chamber's lights. I propose we discuss a more serious matter. My scouts report increased pirate activity in the Outer Rim sectors. Several species have requested protection for their trade routes. I believe the Krillian fleet can provide adequate security for a reasonable fee. Council leader Krex nodded approvingly. The Krillian raiders have proven themselves capable of protecting civilized commerce. What are your terms, Captain? Simple. Vorth replied. We will patrol the major trade routes and eliminate any threats to legitimate merchant vessels. In exchange, we ask for priority docking rights and a small percentage of cargo values as payment. Of course, we would only protect ships that are worth protecting. Some vessels are so primitive that they wouldn't be worth a pirate's time to capture. His eyes fixed on Maria as he said this, and the implication was clear. Human ships were too worthless to warrant protection. The other species found this hilarious, and the chamber filled with various sounds of alien laughter. Maria maintained her diplomatic composure, but inside she was taking careful notes. This was exactly the kind of intelligence that Earth's real leadership needed to hear. Captain Vorth, I'm curious about your fleet capabilities. How many ships do you command? Vorth puffed up with pride. The Krillian raider fleet consists of 243 combat vessels, including 37 heavy cruisers, 89 destroyers, and over 100 fast attack ships. We have conquered 17 star systems and defeated the combined fleets of 4 different species. No force in this sector of the galaxy can match our firepower. Impressive, Maria said, genuinely meaning it. And what about other species? How do your capabilities compare to theirs? The question seemed to please everyone in the chamber. They clearly enjoyed discussing their military might, especially in front of someone they saw as helpless. Council leader Krex activated another holographic display showing fleet compositions throughout the galaxy. The Zentarian Defense Force maintains over 800 vessels, Krex announced proudly. Our ships use quantum displacement drives and plasma weaponry that can vaporize asteroids. We also have orbital defense stations around every major world, each one capable of destroying entire invasion fleets. Other species quickly added their own statistics. The vegans had 600 ships with advanced shielding technology. The Korathi commanded 400 vessels equipped with matter disintegration beams. The Nexari possessed 300 ships that could phase in and out of normal spacetime. Each species seemed eager to demonstrate their superiority over the primitive humans. Dr. Salin leaned forward with what might have been sympathy. Ambassador Santos, given these numbers, I hope Earth understands the reality of galactic politics. Your 37 cargo ships would not last 5 minutes against any real military force. Perhaps humanity should focus on what it does best, growing food and mining raw materials. Leave the complex matters of defense and exploration to more advanced civilizations. A condescending tone stung, but Maria smiled graciously. Dr. Salin, you're absolutely right. Humanity has much to learn from our galactic neighbors. We're grateful for your patience as we develop our capabilities. Captain Vorth laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. Develop your capabilities? Humans have been in space for over a century, and you still fly ships that belong in a museum. At this rate, you'll need 1,000 years to catch up with the rest of us. Perhaps longer, added Zix. I've seen your industrial capacity reports. Earth produces fewer starships per year than most species build in a single month. Your entire planet couldn't construct a proper battlecruiser if you had the blueprints. The meeting continued for several more hours, with various species discussing trade agreements, territorial disputes, and defense partnerships. Throughout it all, humans were treated as insignificant observers rather than meaningful participants. Maria was occasionally asked simple questions about Earth's agricultural output or mining operations, but never consulted on important matters of policy or strategy. As the session finally ended, Captain Vorth approached Maria with what passed for a friendly expression among Krillians. Ambassador, I want you to know that I don't enjoy mocking your species. You humans show admirable determination, even if your technology is primitive. Tell me, have you ever seen a real warship in action? No, Captain, Maria replied honestly. Earth has been fortunate to avoid military conflicts so far. Vorth nodded as if confirming something he already knew. Perhaps that's for the best. War is not for species like yours. Stick to hauling cargo and growing food. It's safer that way. The trip back to Earth took 3 weeks aboard one of humanity's supposedly primitive cargo haulers. The ship was called the New Horizon, and like all human vessels, it looked clunky and outdated compared to the sleek alien ships they passed along the way. Its hull was thick and angular, covered with obvious maintenance patches and exhaust vents that constantly leaked atmosphere. The fusion reactor made audible humming sounds that could be heard throughout the ship, and the artificial gravity occasionally flickered during course corrections. Maria spent most of the journey in her small cabin, reviewing recordings of the council meeting and preparing her report. Every insult, every boast, every casual revelation about alien military capabilities was carefully documented. By the time they reached Earth orbit, she had compiled a comprehensive intelligence briefing that would have made professional spies envious. Earth looked exactly as she remembered it, a blue and white marble hanging in space, surrounded by a few simple orbital stations and the occasional cargo ship. There were no massive defense platforms, no gleaming battle fleets, no obvious signs of military power. Anyone observing from a distance would see exactly what the Galactic Trade Council expected to see: a primitive world with limited spacefaring capability. The New Horizon docked at Luna Station, Earth's primary spaceport built into the crater walls of the Moon. The station looked as unimpressive as everything else in the human space fleet, functional but crude, with visible structural supports and external equipment that suggested constant need for repair and maintenance. Maria took a shuttle down to Earth's surface, landing at the seemingly civilian spaceport outside Geneva. From there, she took a series of public transports that eventually led her to the Swiss Alps. To any observer, she was simply a returning diplomat taking a well-deserved vacation in the mountains. The hiking trail looked authentic, complete with tourist markers and scenic viewpoints. Maria followed it for several kilometers until she reached a specific boulder marked with a small, almost invisible symbol. She pressed her hand against the symbol, and after a moment, the ground opened to reveal a hidden elevator. The elevator descended for nearly a kilometer, finally opening into a vast underground complex that definitely did not exist on any public records. The walls were lined with advanced displays showing star maps, fleet positions, and tactical data from across the galaxy. Hundreds of technicians worked at monitoring stations, coordinating activities that the surface world knew nothing about. Admiral Chun Wei was waiting for her in the Central Command Center. He was a small, quiet man in his 60s who looked more like a university professor than a military commander. His unremarkable appearance was perfect for his job, which required him to be invisible to Galactic Intelligence Services. "Ambassador Santos," Chun said warmly, "welcome home. I trust your trip was productive?" "Very productive, Admiral," Maria replied, handing him a secure datapad. "The Galactic Trade Council continues to view humanity as harmless cargo haulers. They freely discussed their military capabilities, fleet positions, and strategic plans in front of me. They also revealed something troubling. Captain Vorth is planning to expand his pirate operations into sectors containing human colonies." Chun reviewed the datapad quickly, his expression growing more serious. "Vorth commands 243 ships. That's a significant force, especially since he believes our colonies are completely defenseless." "He's not wrong, according to our official records," Maria said. "As far as the galaxy knows, we have no military vessels and no orbital defenses. Our colonies are protected only by local security forces with chemical weapons and kinetic shields." "Which is exactly what we want them to think," Sean replied with a slight smile. "How long before Vorth makes his move?" "Based on their discussions, I estimate he'll begin probing attacks within the next month. He's looking for easy targets that will provide maximum profit with minimum risk. Our agricultural colonies fit that description perfectly." Chun walked over to one of the large displays showing a real-time map of human space. Unlike the simple charts that aliens had access to, this one showed the true extent of human expansion. There were not a few dozen colonies as the public records indicated, but hundreds of settlements spread across multiple star systems. More importantly, the display showed defensive positions that were completely invisible to Galactic Intelligence Services. 53 years, Chun said quietly. 53 years since first contact, and we've maintained the deception perfectly. The galaxy sees exactly what we want them to see, a primitive species barely capable of interplanetary travel. "And the reality?" Maria asked, though she already knew the answer. Asterisk. Chun pressed a control, and the display changed to show humanity's true military capabilities. The numbers were staggering. Instead of 37 cargo ships, Earth commanded over 4,000 combat vessels hidden throughout the galaxy. Instead of simple fusion reactors, human ships used advanced quantum drives that could outrun anything in galactic service. Instead of kinetic weapons, they carried energy systems that could crack planets. "Project Phantom Fleet," Chun said proudly. "Every cargo ship the aliens have seen is actually a disguised warship. Every mining station is a hidden weapons platform. Every agricultural colony has orbital defenses that make Zentarian battle stations look like toys. We've been building this for over half a century, while the galaxy laughed at our primitive technology." Maria stared at the display in amazement. She had known about the deception in general terms, but seeing the full scope was overwhelming. "How? Did we keep it secret for so long?" "The same way magicians fool their audiences," Chun replied. "We showed them exactly what they expected to see. When they looked at our ships, they saw smoking, clunky cargo haulers, because that's what the external sensors detected. They never bothered to scan deeper, because they assumed we weren't worth the effort." "And when Captain Vorth attacks our colonies?" Chun's smile was not entirely pleasant. "He's going to discover that our defenseless settlements have some very unpleasant surprises waiting for him. More importantly, he's going to learn that humanity has been playing a very long, very patient game, and we're about to win." Asterisk the reckoning Captain Vorth stood on the bridge of his flagship Blood Reaper, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. 3 of his raider squadrons were approaching the human colony of New Eden, an agricultural settlement that should provide easy plunder with minimal resistance. According to all available intelligence, the colony had no orbital defenses and only basic security forces armed with primitive chemical weapons. "Target analysis complete, Captain," reported his tactical officer, a scarred Krillian veteran named Dax. The colony has approximately 50,000 inhabitants engaged in food production. Long-range scans show minimal industrial capability and no military installations. This should be profitable with very low risk. Vorth nodded approvingly. Human colonies were perfect targets for pirate raids because they possessed valuable resources but lacked the means to defend themselves. Food, rare minerals, and manufactured goods could be seized and sold to less scrupulous traders throughout the galaxy. Better yet, attacking humans carried minimal political consequences, since no other species would waste resources defending such primitive allies. What about their merchant ships? Vorth asked. 2 cargo vessels in orbit, both showing standard human design characteristics. Thick hulls, chemical propulsion, minimal weaponry. Our fighters could disable them easily if they attempt to flee. Through the bridge windows, Vorth could see his raider fleet approaching the human colony. 47 ships in total, including his personal cruiser and several squadrons of fast attack vessels. It was massive overkill for such a defenseless target, but Vorth believed in overwhelming force. Quick, brutal raids discouraged future resistance and sent clear messages to other potential victims. Eden appeared on the main display as they approached. The colony world was beautiful, with blue oceans, green continents, and white clouds swirling in a complex atmospheric pattern. Orbital installations were minimal, a few simple space stations that appeared to be cargo handling facilities, several communication satellites, and those 2 unremarkable human cargo ships. "No response to our approach, Captain," reported the communications officer. "They don't appear to have detected us yet." "Typical human incompetence," Vorth said with amusement. "Their sensor systems are probably incapable of detecting ships. At this range, begin the attack pattern. Disable their communications first, then target any ships that try to escape. I want this colony isolated and helpless within 10 minutes." The raider fleet spread out in their standard attack formation. Fast interceptors moved to surround the orbital installations, while heavy cruisers positioned themselves to bombard any ground-based defenses. Vorth had used this pattern successfully against dozens of colonies belonging to various species. It was efficient, effective, and usually ended resistance before it could begin. "Firing solution locked on communications array," Dax reported. "Awaiting your command. Fire." Energy beams lanced out from the raider ships, targeting the colony's communication satellites. The beams struck their targets precisely, and the satellites exploded in brief flashes of light and debris. New Eden was now cut off from the rest of human space, unable to call for help, even if any help existed. "Communications destroyed, Captain. The colony is isolated." "Excellent. Now target those cargo ships before they can escape." But as the raiders turned their weapons toward the 2 human vessels, something unexpected happened. Instead of fleeing or surrendering, the cargo ships began to change. Their external hulls retracted like flower petals, revealing sleek combat vessels underneath. Weapon ports opened along their sides, and energy fields began glowing around their engines. "What in the void is that?" Vorth demanded. Before Dax could answer, the transformed human ships opened fire. Energy beams far more powerful than anything in the raider arsenal struck 3 Krillian interceptors, vaporizing them instantly. The remaining raider ships scrambled to respond, but they were already out of position and caught completely off guard. "Impossible," Vorth shouted. "Those were cargo haulers. How are they armed with military-grade weapons?" "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy signatures from the colony surface. Something is rising from the ground." Vorth looked at the tactical display in disbelief. All across New Eden's surface, what had appeared to be agricultural installations were opening like massive doors. Hidden beneath the farms and processing facilities were orbital defense platforms, armed with weapons that made his cruiser's arsenal look like toys. Full retreat, Vorth ordered. All ships withdraw immediately, but it was too late. The hidden defense platforms opened fire, sending streams of coherent energy across space with impossible accuracy. Raider ships exploded one after another as the defensive barrage found its targets. Vorth's proud fleet was being systematically destroyed by weapons that weren't supposed to exist. Captain, we're detecting additional ships approaching from multiple vectors. Dax reported, his voice filled with panic. Hundreds of them. The tactical display updated to show the true scope of the disaster. What had appeared to be empty space around New Eden was actually filled with human warships that had been completely invisible to Krillian sensors. They were emerging from some kind of advanced stealth technology, surrounding the Raider fleet in a perfect tactical encirclement. These were not the clumsy cargo haulers that the galaxy knew and mocked. These ships were sleek, powerful, and obviously designed for warfare. Their hulls gleamed with energy fields that suggested defensive capabilities far beyond anything Vorth had encountered. Weapons arrays along their sides indicated firepower. That could challenge the largest battleships in galactic service. Asterisk. "This is Admiral Sarah Mitchell of the Earth Defense Force," came a calm human voice over the communication system. "Captain Vorth, you are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender immediately, and you will be treated according to galactic warfare conventions." Vorth stared at the display in shock. Earth Defense Force? Humans weren't supposed to have a military, let alone one with hundreds of advanced warships. According to every intelligence report, every diplomatic briefing, every casual observation over 5 years of contact, humanity possessed only primitive cargo vessels and minimal technology. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Humans don't have warships. They don't have orbital defenses. They barely have spaceflight capability." "Captain Vorth," Admiral Mitchell's voice continued, "I'm going to explain something that your species and the rest of the galaxy apparently failed to understand. Humans are very good at showing people exactly what we want them to see. For the past 53 years, we've been letting you think we were primitive and helpless. We are neither." On the tactical display, more human ships continued to appear as their stealth systems deactivated. The numbers were staggering. Vorth counted over 200 vessels, including massive battleships that dwarfed his own flagship. The smallest human destroyer was larger and more heavily armed than his best cruiser. "You have 30 seconds to surrender," Admiral Mitchell announced. "After that, we will demonstrate why attacking human colonies is a very poor decision." Vorth looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were hardened pirates who had raided dozens of worlds and defeated multiple species in combat. Now they looked terrified. The Krillian raider fleet, which had seemed invincible just minutes ago, was surrounded by an enemy force that outnumbered and outgunned them completely. "How?" Vorth asked over the communication channel. "How did you hide this from the entire galaxy?" "The same way we've hidden everything else," Admiral Mitchell replied. "We made you see what you expected to see. Your sensors detected cargo ships because that's what we wanted them to detect. Your intelligence services reported primitive technology because that's what we showed them. Your military analysts dismissed us as harmless because that's what we wanted them to think." The truth was devastating. Every human ship the galaxy had ever encountered had been a deliberate deception. Every display of primitive technology had been carefully staged. Every appearance of weakness had been a calculated performance designed to hide humanity's true capabilities. 20 seconds, Captain." Vorth realized he had no choice. His fleet was trapped with no possibility of escape. The human formation was perfect, covering all possible retreat routes while positioning their most powerful ships to deliver maximum firepower. This was not the work of primitive cargo haulers. This was military planning at the highest level, executed with precision that suggested decades of preparation. "All ships, stand down," Vorth transmitted to his fleet. "Deactivate weapons and prepare for surrender." "A wise choice," Admiral Mitchell said. "Human vessels will now board your ships to secure them. Do not resist, and you will not be harmed." As Krillian ships powered down their weapons and shields, human boarding craft approached with smooth efficiency. These were not the clumsy shuttles that aliens had grown accustomed to seeing. They were sleek, fast, and obviously designed for Military Operations.VOR watched in fascination as human soldiers boarded his ship. They moved with professional competence, wearing advanced combat armor and carrying energy weapons that looked far more sophisticated than anything in his own arsenal. These were not primitive farmers or cargo handlers. They were elite military personnel with training and equipment that matched or exceeded the best forces in the galaxy. "Captain Vorth," Admiral Mitchell said as she materialized on his bridge. "Via holographic projection, you and your fleet will be transferred to Earth for processing. Your ships will be impounded and your crews questioned. Depending on your cooperation, you may eventually be released to return to Krillian space." Vorth studied the human admiral with new respect. She was younger than he had expected, probably in her 40s, with short brown hair and calm, intelligent eyes. Her uniform was simple, but clearly military, and she carried herself with the confidence of someone accustomed to command. "Admiral Mitchell," Vorth said carefully, "may I ask you a question?" "You may. How long have you been planning this deception?" Mitchell's expression became thoughtful. "Since first contact, 53 years ago. We studied every species in the galaxy, learned their capabilities, observed their behaviors, and realized that most civilizations dismiss anything they perceive as primitive or weak. So we gave you exactly what you expected to see while we built our real capabilities in secret. And now the galaxy is going to learn that humanity is not what it appears to be. We're tired of being mocked, dismissed, and treated as insignificant. More importantly, we're tired of having our colonies threatened by pirates who think we can't defend ourselves." The boarding was completed within an hour. Human prize crews took control of the Krillian ships, while the original crews were transferred to detention vessels. The process was smooth, professional, and completely overwhelming. Vorth realized that his supposedly elite raider fleet had been captured without losing a single human ship or suffering significant casualties. As his flagship was towed toward Earth, Vorth found himself thinking about the implications of what had just happened. If humans could hide an entire fleet for 50 years, what else were they capable of? How many other species in the galaxy were operating under false assumptions about human capabilities? 3 days later, Captain Vorth found himself in a comfortable detention facility on Earth's moon. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see human warships arriving and departing in a constant stream of activity. The scale of their operations was mind-boggling. This was not a small colonial defense force, but a major military power that had been completely invisible to galactic intelligence services. He was not the only prisoner. Word of the New Eden incident had spread quickly through pirate networks, and other raider groups had attempted to attack human colonies, apparently believing that one successful defense was just luck. They had all met the same fate: overwhelming defeat by forces that shouldn't have existed. The detention facility's recreational area had become an informal gathering place for captured pirates from multiple species. They shared stories of defeat and tried to understand what had happened to them. The common theme was disbelief. Every species represented had intelligence reports showing human weakness, but every attack had encountered devastating resistance. "They're everywhere," said a Nexari captain, whose fleet had attacked a mining colony in the Outer Rim. "We thought we were hitting an isolated outpost with minimal defenses. Instead, we found a fortress with orbital weapons platforms and patrol. Fleets. My entire squadron was captured in less than 20 minutes. A Karathi raider leader nodded in agreement. The same thing happened to us. We targeted what appeared to be a simple research station. When we attacked, it transformed into a military base with defensive capabilities that exceeded anything in our databases. The humans had been monitoring our approach for weeks. Vorth realized that humanity's deception was far more comprehensive than he had initially understood. It wasn't just about hiding military ships or disguising weapons platforms. The humans had created an entirely false impression of their civilization, from their technology level to their defensive capabilities to their strategic thinking. On the fourth day, Admiral Mitchell visited the detention facility personally. She moved through the recreational area, speaking briefly with various prisoners and observing their reactions. When she reached Vorth, she sat down across from him with a cup of what appeared to be coffee. "Captain," she said politely, "I hope you're being treated well." "Better than I would have treated human prisoners," Vorth admitted. "Admiral, may I ask what happens now?" "That depends largely on your species' response," Mitchell replied. "We've sent detailed reports about these incidents to the Galactic Trade Council, along with evidence of your raider activities and documentation of our defensive actions. The Council is currently debating how to respond, and if they demand your surrender." Mitchell smiled, and for the first time, Vorth saw something cold in her expression. "Captain, we've been members of the Galactic Trade Council for 5 years. During that time, we've listened carefully to every discussion about military capabilities, defensive strategies, and fleet compositions. We know exactly how powerful every species thinks they are. More importantly, we know how powerful they actually are." The implication was clear. If humanity could hide their own capabilities so completely, they had almost certainly been gathering intelligence about everyone else's real strengths and weaknesses. The pirates weren't the only ones who had been operating under false assumptions. "What do you want from us?" Vorth asked. "Respect," Mitchell said simply. "For 53 years, humanity has been patient while other species mocked our appearance, dismissed our capabilities, and treated us as irrelevant. We've endured condescension, insults, and threats while building the strength to defend ourselves. Now we want to be treated as equals. And if the galaxy refuses?" Mitchell's smile became even colder. "Then the galaxy will learn that humans are very good at playing long games, and we've been planning for that possibility as well." 2 weeks later, an emergency session of the Galactic Trade Council convened to address what news reports were calling the human question. Species representatives arrived expecting to discuss sanctions against Earth for attacking legitimate salvage operations. Instead, they found themselves facing evidence of systematic piracy, documentation of human military capabilities, and a simple question: would they prefer to deal with humanity as equals, or discover what other surprises the humans had been hiding? A session was broadcast throughout the galaxy, and for the first time, humans were not sitting in the lower seats listening to others debate their fate. Ambassador Maria Santos stood at the central podium, backed by holographic displays showing the true extent of human space operations, while Admiral Chun Wei sat in the observer section wearing the uniform of the Earth Defense Force. Council leader Krex looked shaken as he addressed the assembly. "The evidence presented by Earth is ... comprehensive. It appears that our previous assessments of human capabilities were significantly inaccurate." "Inaccurate is a diplomatic way of putting it," Maria said calmly. "For 5 years, this council has treated humanity as a minor species suitable only for manual labor and cargo transport. You've mocked our technology, dismissed our potential, and ignored our legitimate concerns about piracy and security. We allowed this because it served our purposes to be underestimated." She activated a holographic display showing human fleet positions throughout the galaxy. The numbers were staggering, and several council members made sounds of shock or alarm. Humanity currently maintains active defense forces in 47 star systems, with patrol fleets operating in over 200 sectors. Our industrial capacity produces more starships per year than any 3 council species combined. Our technological capabilities include stealth systems, quantum drives, and energy weapons that exceed anything currently in galactic service. Captain Vorth, who had been brought to testify about the Raider incidents, watched the proceedings with a mixture of amazement and resignation. The species that had dismissed humans as primitive cargo haulers were now staring at evidence of a military machine that could challenge any force in known space. The question before this council, Maria continued, is simple. Do you want humanity as a partner or as a rival? We're prepared for either option, but we will no longer tolerate being treated as inferiors by species who couldn't see past their own prejudices. The debate that followed was heated, with several species demanding explanations for how such a massive deception had been possible. Others focused on the military implications of human capabilities. A few representatives suggested that humanity should be censured for their deception, but these voices were